was a painter in the early 1900s, but he is really well known for his teaching and his instructions for art. Amazing artist. But what was really interesting about the book was it really taught me about the brotherhood and sisterhood of artists out there. And as an artist, when you're young and you get all these incredible feelings about art, you really don't know how to process it. You start looking at things differently, examining things differently, and you feel kind of strange, to be honest with you. And after I read this book, I realized that this is not unique. There's a bunch of people out there that have this talent and these unique feelings. So I learned a lot from Robert Henry, and I studied his art, and I really a big admirer of him. I guess my paintings, you would consider them kind of representational, traditional in style, although I do get some impressionistic. Although I am pretty much a studio artist. I've done some plein air, but being in the studio is my heaven on earth. Being in the studio with fresh oils and my dog in there and a cup of coffee, that's what I love. So where I'm going with my art today is continuing with my oils. I'm actually considering a lot of different series. I work in series. I maybe go out to the west, I go to the east coast and do series. But I've got a lot of ideas as far as some more series. I'm actually thinking about a whole religious theme and doing some really unique religious theme paintings. And then also I want to get back into my portraiture work. I did portraitures for about 10 or 15 years and did a lot of celebrity families, did a lot of businessmen and local businessmen and a lot of business folks in St. Louis. But that's something I also would like to get back into doing. So yeah, it's great to be here with Rick, and it's great to be here with these talented artists that are a part of this show. It's really exciting to see their work and plan on to keep on painting.
I started out working in watercolor, taking a couple evening courses, and as it grew, I started doing outdoor painting. And I liked watercolor because I was able to capture the mood, put it down quickly, and I like the translucentness of the watercolor. It's nice and crisp and a clean paint application. As I continued to work, I decided that I wanted to try a different medium, and I was drawn to pastel because of the way you can lay it on very lightly. I oftentimes do watercolor as an underpainting now, and then I apply my pastel over it. I can be very, very light. Sometimes you can't even tell where the watercolor starts and the pastel begins. And I just like the mood that it gives it. I feel like I started very tight, and I'm working towards getting looser, more impressionistic, and that's it.
I've been doing full-time painting as a career now for about 15 years. Prior to that, I was a photographer, a studio photographer, and that was a good career while it lasted, but things went digital, and then I thought, this is a good time. If I want to be a painter, I better get at it. I came out of school at WashU as a painter, and sidetracked as the photography gig. So I did a couple things. I'm primarily a figurative painter. Do quite a bit of studio work, but I also have gotten into doing the plein air, which is landscape painting, going out on location. And I find it's really been valuable for me. I travel quite a bit during the course of the year, going to different locations. But the big thing for me is we're doing anywhere from 5, 6, 7 paintings a day. They're not all good stuff, but I'm doing a lot of work, and it's like anything else. It's the way you progress is by doing a great deal of work. And I always find things out in the field that I can take back to studio and incorporate there. So right now I'm working with a lot of paint, doing a lot of portrait work, not so much portrait in terms of personalities, but in terms of just general figures, and working with how I can put paint on. I'm using a lot of paint, say similar to Lucian Freud, if you will, but also I've always been influenced by some of the early painters, the Ashcan school painters of the early 20th century. So Robert Henright's kind of a guy that's always been in the back of my head. That's kind of what I kind of do, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Subject matter is always secondary for me. It's how the paint goes on and how I move paint around.
Nicole Cooper. The work that I chose for this show is work that has inspired the current body of work that I do, called The Body in Bloom. I use energetic brushwork, vivid colors, and layers of unfurling flesh to explore humanity as this living, evolving, growing force. And so the pieces that I selected for this show, they're earlier in this body of work, and they seek to kind of open the body and explore these like systems. So the systems that make up your body actually support and sustain the life within your body. And so I want the paintings to express that life and cycling and flow. And yeah, and in these pieces, like for instance, Bud 5, which is my 8 by 24 inch painting. Yeah, the idea is in that piece where I opened the throat, I opened the muscles in the neck, and you might not be able to tell, but it's actually a neck and shoulders, and there's several figures that are in it, and they're set up in kind of a timeline. But when I open the neck to reveal the circulatory system, I'm exploring relationships between generations of people. So you would say it's a symbol for like a blood relative, or being connected in that kind of a sense to others and to the people around you, whether they're family or not. You know, humanity is this like connected system, and yeah, that's really kind of what inspires my work, and every piece that I make is this idea, this mystery. I'm investigating the mystery of the life within the body and the life force that we all universally share.
So I got started hanging around in a, believe it or not, there's an art bar in St. Louis called the Venice Cafe, and both the men that own it were artists, and actually the place started as sort of an artist co-op before it turned into a public facility and a bar and restaurant. And I started hanging in there all the time, and I was a musician, but not a painter. I was a music artist, not a visual artist. But being around them all the time made me want to get involved. And this was around the period of time when computers were getting popular, and I became fascinated with computers. So I talked to a friend of mine that was already working in Photoshop, which this was 1998. I was 48 years old, and he told me to go buy Photoshop, so I did. And I was fascinated with it, so I started scanning objects. I wasn't a photographer at all then. I didn't really have an interest in photography. I just liked using Photoshop to scan objects and manipulate them into images. And about 2 or 3 years into that, I realized, wow, I'm working with the greatest digital darkroom there is, and so let's get a camera and see what I can do. So It just evolved into taking photographs. And I've used the beginning of that and went into what I'm doing now. I've combined all that stuff together. I've always been a painterly kind of guy, so I paint too. And by the way, I'm completely self-taught. Everything is on the wing. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have fun doing it. And I really don't care if I sell art. It's all about the process. I enjoy it. That's what I'm trying to say, is I completely enjoy doing it. I get lost in it. I don't do it to try to sell it. If somebody wants to buy it, that's awesome. That tells me that someone out there likes it. But I do it because I like the process. I like the making of it. And I still own a business, so I don't have as much time to do it yet, but I still will put 16 to 20 hours a week into it. I don't know where to go from here.